Hey friends, I am fresh off my interview with Dana Dunford. She's the CEO and co-founder of Hemlane, which is a property management service and software platform that is really changing up the way that property management is done and landlording is done in the entire country. You're going to love it. We delve into AI and all the things to be looking out for as the world of property management changes in the coming months. Here's my interview with Dana. Welcome back to Real Estate Investing for Life. I am thrilled to bring my special guest with you today. We haven't done a lot of guest episodes lately, but I reached out to a friend of mine who's a big supporter of the Idaho Real Estate Investor Network. It's Dana Dunford, and some of you may already recognize her name if you are into studying trends in property management, because she is a part of a huge property management company that's a little different than most people associate with property manager companies. We'll talk about that. And we're also going to delve into some really unique trends that we're seeing in not only in the property management space, but in the AI space. So let's dig into it. Welcome, Dana Dunford, to the show.
Great. Thanks, Donna, so much for having me.
I am glad for others to get to know you the way that I've been following you for the few years. I think we had a conversation several years ago, and you were actually looking into the Boise market, right?
Biggest mistake of my life. I remember we were looking at with you a property and we didn't move forward on it. It was my husband and me. We didn't move forward on it. This was like 2016 because we were worried it was close to the train tracks and there'd be like this loud noise. And then fast forward to like the boom of Boise. And I was like, why was I worrying about train tracks in this situation? So anyway, we're here today, but one of my biggest regrets was not investing in Boise. I invested in Florida instead. And now deeply am kicking myself as my insurance rates go up. No, it was a good investment, but I think Boise would have been a lot better.
Oh, well, we're glad that you're part of Boise now and part of our community. And I am just thrilled that you are an investor, because a lot of times we're talking to even very successful CEOs and people in management and so forth that have found this success in their entrepreneurial world, but they haven't dabbled in investing at all. And so it's really refreshing when we get to talk to an entrepreneur like yourself that also has taken action with investing, which is a lot of our audience today. So this is perfect timing, and because a lot of people are wrestling with how do we get started investing right now in a market? Like you said, Boise has come up in property values, and how does that make sense? And I know that your company can really help with some friction that people are experiencing with the outlay that goes out with a lot of things that traditionally associated with property management. But let's take a step back. How did you come into this idea of Hemlane? And can you give the audience just a brief history about how that came about and what your history is?
Yeah, great question. I think, Jonna, similar to most people in property management, no one wakes up and dreams to go into property management. Honestly, most say, I want to go into buy, sell, I want to go into fix and flip, I want to go into design, something else associated with like the physical world and real estate. There was a couple of things like, so one, I had my own experience with property managers, and a property manager actually is overworked and underpaid for what they do. They have so much context switching, like they have to do the maintenance and repair. They have to understand lease agreements. They have to go through and, be a good salesperson to sell a tenant on a place and sell an owner. And there is 122,000 property management shops out there
Oh
with
my
an
gosh.
average of
That's a lot.
3 employees, and they all only have 3 employees. And I saw this transformation. I'd been working at Apple at the time, then went over to Nest. Nest was all Apple people, by the way, like the home technology company, because it was started by Tony Fadell, who created the iPod. So was over there and was thinking about it. I was like, my own primary residence home is tech enabled. I can go on vacation and I can be like, oh shoot, I forgot to turn down my thermostat. And I can turn it down from my phone. But I didn't feel the same way when I was at Nest about my rentals. It was like, actually, I don't have any transparency into what's going on. I would get a distribution and not really know anything in the day to day. And so, the whole concept was like, how do you improve this industry? By the way, the industry, property management itself, is the second lowest rated industry on Angie's. Guess what's the first lowest rated industry?
Is it realtor or
No,
attorney?
no. It's or attorneys, they charge so much. It's actually home
Car
warranty.
salesman.
Home
Oh,
warranty. Car
oh, home
salesman is
warranty.
actually
Okay.
close. It's home warranty. And so, to me, it's not the people necessarily in the property management industry. It's kind of the process is broken. And why I say the process is broken is 72% of people self-manage their rentals. And so when you have 72% of people self-managing, it's different than the buy-sell side. On the buy-sell side, it's like 98, 99% of people use a realtor, right?
Right.
To buy, but then on the property management side, they don't. And so that is really where it was like, hey, how do we bring those two sides closer together and provide a platform that is more transparent for the owner? They still get the services that they need. And when they need the local support or the local boots on the ground, we're able to provide that to them. So, like, that's kind of like the big idea with the change in property management. I think how it relates to today is when we started Hemlane and offered, like, hey, we can help with your property management, people thought we were absolutely crazy. They said, you guys are in San Francisco, or like, you guys think you're going to Mars, and like, our property is in Boise, it's in these other
Right.
locations. How can you help? And I think there were kind of two huge changes that made people think differently. Obviously, the first was COVID and remote work and Airbnb remote, going into places without a showing agent there for it. But I think the second one has been AI. And now people are saying, how do you provide more virtual services and then have the local property manager, because we work with licensed property managers too, have a manager on the ground or, whoever you need, handyman, plumber. And I think as AI takes completely away service jobs, that's what's going to be so important is like the people on the ground. And I think that a technology company like us, that's what makes us excited. That's what makes us get up in the morning, is really helping to serve that need and kind of see in 5 to 6 years how this industry will completely change.
Wow. Okay. So many things I want to get into here. So I'm thinking about you talked about 73% are self-managed, right? I'm thinking about the
72.
audience.
Yeah.
72% who are self-managing properties. I've been in that camp for many, many years.
Yep.
And things are changing quickly. Are you seeing a real problem with that, in that most of the 72% are not equipped for the changes coming in the coming years?
I think a part of that is there. I think the bigger part with the 72% who are self-managing is regulations are changing. So
Mm,
laws, and there's just certain things that you can't say. Like, you can't go into a showing and say this is a great family neighborhood. That's a fair housing violation.
right.
And I don't think owners know all of that, nor should they. Like, you're an investor. You shouldn't have to keep up with, you shouldn't become a lawyer. And that's where like really good AI models and algorithms will be able to make sure communications are very objective, very fair, first come,
Oh, I
first
see.
serve, all of that as well. And so I think that helps the industry. And, there's a lot of investors out there who want to still do everything manually themselves and have these processes that are very offline. Well, today, tenants just expect that speed to lead. They expect instant gratification. We live in what's called the convenience culture today, where,
Hmm.
the next generation, everything has to be convenient. Their DoorDash, their Instacart, their Waymo, or like their Uber, everything is immediate. And the only way to kind of stay ahead of that curve is to start, whether you're a property manager, whether you're an owner operator, whoever you are, think about technology as your friend and not and how much of it can you put into your process, and then make sure it's a really strong experience.
Wow. And obviously you've gotten this figured out. We were just talking before we started rolling. How many customers do you serve right now?
Yeah, so doors on the platforms like units or doors, you can call them either one. It's over 100,000, but there's about 30,000 that we help manage the day to day in some capacity. So self-guided tours, doing repair coordination and dispatch. And really for us, There's no customer that's the same. Like, we'll have a customer come to us and say, I'm a general contractor. I don't need you to do repair coordination for me. I'm just going to be sending out my own team and doing my own stuff. We'll have another one who comes to us who says, I'm a agent, leasing agent. I'm showing properties. I'm driving by the property all the time. I'm going to do that. And so really, we like to customize it for you of like, what services do you need? What can we do to help make your experience of managing your properties better? And I guarantee out of the entire process from finding a tenant to the day-to-day management, there's always one or two things that people don't like doing. Or there's some of our users who say, I don't want to do anything. I just want to pass over the keys. And then we have them connect with one of the managers who's using our services on the platform.
Okay. So and you mentioned you're down in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
So you're right in the hub of all the technology going on, it sounds like, aren't you?
Yeah. In San Francisco, which is where Anthropic, OpenAI, all the big kind of AI players are right now.
Right. Okay. Well, okay. So let's take it to a specific scenario. If I'm a property owner in Boise, Idaho, and I've got 5 doors that I've been self-managing for years and years, and you're in San Francisco, how does that work? How would I work with a company like Hemlane to transfer into this? I know you've called it like a hybrid model.
Yeah.
Where you go into something with partnering with a company like yours.
Yeah. So you start by just getting your listing set up on the platform. Once your listing is set up and there's AI to do like your listing description, everything like that, we'll advertise it to all the listing websites. You have 3 options to show your property. One is you can legally do it yourself. I know in Idaho, you don't need a licensed property manager. In most states, you do.
Right. Right.
So we will connect you with someone if you want someone to do the showings for you. Or the third option, which is our fastest growing, is self-guided tours. We have loft boxes that have digital codes. They change every single time. We do biometrics. We scan your face before you get access. You lock up afterwards, that whole experience. That's our fastest growing. And it was the one I was most skeptical about until I saw how much faster we could place tenants and how tenant satisfaction actually increased so much.
Oh, wow. And then do you go ahead and do all the application process and so forth, or
Mhm. We do the
owners on their own?
application. Yeah, so we do the application, we do the background check, credit check, evictions, all based on what your state laws are, because every law is different. We do income verification, and then we also do the landlord verification. We give that packet to you. So based on the objective criteria of, credit score, income to rent ratio, all of that, it will give a recommendation based on your data, but you are the one who gets to choose at the end of the day, is this person moving in? We're not making any of those decisions for you. And I think by keeping you in the driver's seat, people tend to be more satisfied because they're like, okay, I know more of like who's moving into the property, what's happening, all of that.
Gotcha. Here's a common question that I know that I've come across quite a bit, and I have other investors that have come to me asking these same questions. It's that question of tenants that are skeptical of who is involved with the property. I think we've seen a lot of tenants that have been burned in recent years with either sending out endless application fees and not hearing
Yeah.
back from either property management companies or owner landlords, that sort of thing. And so almost always to this day, I feel like I'm getting questioned on who's the owner of the property, or
Yeah.
who would my point of contact be? And I think there's a lot of distress with all the scams out there.
Yeah.
Can you speak to any of those trends? Or I think with AI, tenants are getting wiser too
Yeah,
on
totally.
questions to ask. And how does that work with Hemline's communication with the tenants? Are you fielding some of those questions?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Tenants don't push back on our process because they go to our website, they see it's reputable, they go to our reviews, hopefully online, they see our reviews online. And we're verifying every listing. So we're not letting Joe Smo, who's a scammer, on our website. I think it's warranted for tenants to be worried. We'll have someone send to our security team, hey, I just saw your listing on Craigslist and it's listed for 2,000 below. How we do that is, even if you're there for the self-guided tour, we say if someone walks up and says they're the landlord, they have not told us they are showing up to the showing. Now they can if they want to and tell us, but they are not. So if someone comes up and says they're the landlord and pass $1,000, like, that is a scam. Give us a call right away, and also like report it to the police. So we've done things like that. to basically help with it. But as far as our process, like I think one of the things with AI and how it changes over time is I think a lot of the mistakes that people make in building AI into product or processes is they say AI is hot, so let me go ahead and add AI to my process. That's like kind of the wrong mentality to think about with AI. What you have to say is I have a problem. What is the solution and does AI solve it better? I think, Jonna, to your point, if you think of showings, that requires a high level of EQ because it's a sales role.
Mm-hmm.
EQ, honestly, AI is good at it, but it's not as great as IQ. That's why engineers are getting displaced by AI faster. AI likes an answer. It likes to give you an example. Hey, I want a showing. Great. Here are the 5 times we have today. Does this include parking? Yes, per the listing, here's the parking information. Is it a great family neighborhood? We can't comment on that because that's, fair housing and we don't know, right? So it likes to have an answer. But when it comes to like the tenant connecting with someone, they're connecting with a human on the phone. So they're
Okay.
connecting, they're not talking to AI on the phone, they're talking to our team on the phone. And that's where I always put it in like this like chart. People can't see maybe but like
If
this
they're on
line is
YouTube, they can. Yeah.
okay, great. This line is IQ, this line is EQ. The higher up it needs EQ, like selling someone on the property, making sure they know they're there, that's where humans jump in. But if it's just answering objective questions that, like, honestly, you don't want it to go too far down the path of fair housing violation or something,
Right.
that's where AI does really well. And so I think if you break it down that way and have a seamless process, but break it down, that's where you really start seeing things to get better.
Okay. Oh, that's cool. Just to kind of go down further through that process after the application comes in, the landlord has the final say, and then they move in. How in the world, I'm just trying to figure out how maintenance requests, how you're able to do that and scale that when you're in San Francisco, you've got
Yeah.
properties that you manage all over the states.
Yeah.
How in the world does that work?
Yeah. So we do anything that is a repair, right, for you, which is 99% of the things that tenants have. If it's a renovation, like you're remodeling your bathroom, we have to step out of that. But it starts with, okay, does the owner have their own service professional network in the property manager, or do they want to tap into our network? Our network is not going to be Joe Smo at $20 an hour. These are licensed and insured people who are very reputable, have all their licensing. We have those documents, insurance, everything like that built out. If you want to send Joe Smo to do a plumbing request and he is not licensed, he's not insured, great, but he's your contact and your
Yeah,
liability, right? And
right.
there's a huge balance for us. Our team spends most of its time on quality versus price. So, like, there's a balance there. You don't want the most expensive person. You also usually don't want the cheapest person who's going to do something wrong. And
Right.
so that's really what our team is constantly balancing with that. If you look at the number of MSAs there are, and that's, larger metropolitan areas, it's about 237, I think, last time I checked, where it's like you need to build that network. We've been around for over 10 years. So it's like we've already built that network in those cities, but that network changes. The one that changes the most, I bet you can guess this, which is the one tradesman where we have to trade them out the most often?
Is it handyman?
Yes.
Yes.
The plumbers, the electricians, once you find a good one, it's
Yeah.
like those ones are usually like, they're not the nationwide ones. It's usually like small, dad's son, 25 years in the business, but we have 3 people working for us. Those are usually the best for that. The handyman are the ones where, they get too busy or their prices increase. They're a one-man show or they're a commercial partner and they're still kind of expensive. Like those are the ones we're constantly trading out. But
Right.
otherwise, to your point, once you build up your network, you really want to have relationships. And then in each one of these cities, they know us. They get the Hemlane work order and they're like, what I like working with Hemlane on is we know they've done the troubleshooting. They've given us the make, model, appliance, how old it is, like all of that in advance. They're going to pick
Yeah.
up their phone. They're going to give us much more information of what is happening and we know we're going to get paid for the job. And so I think like those things, if we can make it easier for the service professional,
Right.
then they're much more likely to work with us. And like all the billing goes through our platform. If they need a credit card on file for a service call, We use single-use credit cards tied to the owner's bank account. So it's used once and it clears, and that credit card can't be used again. And so there's certain things like that that we do to protect the owner, but also just
Mhm.
make sure we're following the standard processes associated with sending out a service professional.
That's awesome. And that's one of the biggest headaches that's even a stopper why a lot of people don't invest. I hear that all the time. I
Yeah.
remember talking to a acquaintance at a dinner party 20 years ago that said, "No way I'm going to invest. I don't want those toilets plugged up at 3 in the morning." That whole thing. And here I've been investing for over 20 years. First of all, that's never been an issue at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've had other
Yeah.
emergencies, but not the plumbing. But if you can eliminate that objection, you could add major wealth opportunities to people that are just like holding on to these limiting beliefs
Yeah.
on how
Yeah.
they could succeed in real estate. And it's really sad, actually. So I love how you're overcoming that. And the other thing that when we were first talking about collaborating together, you mentioned you're not in direct competition with some of those full service property management companies. I see you being a great asset
Yeah.
to smaller property management companies, correct?
Yeah, they love working with us because they're like, great, I don't have to be up at like on Saturdays. A lot of them are overworked. They're working 7 days of the week. The tenants have something happening. They're doing showings. They're like, great, I actually could be the face and work with the clients, and you guys have my back. It's interesting. There are some property managers that are worried about Hemlane and taking their jobs. And it's not any of the ones we work with. If you talk to the ones we work with, we grow their business. We don't take it away. But, I think they need to wake up and realize two things. One, if you are worried about technology taking your job, it will. Like, you should be using the best technology to make your job better, right? Like, you are the EQ person who's on the ground, knows your market, knows the pricing, all of that. And like, you need technology to do all the administrative, all the day to day, all the things that have answers to it. The other one, which I think is so funny, is all these property managers are like dying to grow. And so what they do, which is so funny, they all just start tacking on all these terrible fees to tenants, to owners, all this stuff that makes an owner
Mhm.
not want to work with them. And I think every property manager who works with us is much smarter on it. What they basically say to us is, great, I can grow my door count. I can be competitive because I'm not tacking on 20% up charges on repair coordination and all of that. So I can be much smarter about that. And then on top of it, I myself get to grow door count through an avenue that no other traditional PM does, because we have a ton of landlords who come to us. They're owner operators. Like, I just had one the other day I spoke to. He's got 80 units and he gave me a call and he said, I've been managing my apartments myself. I want to retire. And my kids are taking over, but my kids don't want to manage the property and I want to keep it on Hemlane. Can you introduce me to one of your brokerage partners in the region?
Okay.
And I talked to him and I said, great, I will introduce you. You keep them on Hemlane and we just transfer them. And it's visible to you. It's visible to your kids who are now taking over and everything's set. And so I think from that perspective, when you think about it, whenever someone's worried about technology in their job, it's always a mindset thing to me. It's like, no, you need to embrace it, because if you don't embrace it, you will get replaced. But if you do, and you think about, who is using a property manager, who's not, how do I grow my business? You realize that everything works in your favor.
Amen. Oh, I couldn't agree more. Let's jump on this AI thing because before we started rolling, we talked about how AI is changing the face of property management, and we know that, and we see it coming like a freight train. And some people are scared of it, some people are embracing it. Obviously, it
Yep.
sounds like Hemlane is embracing it. So I'd love to hear from you your thoughts on how property management is going to change over the next, say 12 to 36 months.
Yeah, I think that. So, first of all, I'm always skeptical of new technology, even though I run a technology company. Back when crypto was out, this was a weird time for me. I was like, oh, I don't really believe in this crypto stuff. I don't understand it. I don't use it every day. Right. Then I started using AI and I said, AI can replace a bit, but it's not like quite there. But I have never seen, since the Industrial Revolution, even the internet didn't move this fast. Since the
Right.
Industrial Revolution, I have never seen something move so quickly and so powerfully and be so much smarter. Like, our engineers don't code at all anymore. And actually, so much to the point, like, was talking about it with one of our engineers. WhatsApp, who's owned by Meta, Facebook,
Uh-huh.
they said to their engineers, if you code, you are fired. Like, you're not allowed to code anymore. And so their jobs are much more product management, overseeing the code, almost like a management role. They're managing these AI agents that are doing all the code for them. And the code's cleaner. It comes out way faster. We launch products like this overnight. Always there's something being launched. And I think the reason I bring that up is I do not believe the world knows what is coming. And these agents are going to get so powerful. Like, you look at Anthropic's head of safety and security, so Claude, obviously, that's one of the top companies.
Yeah.
And I mean, their head of safety and security the other day posted on Twitter, I'm moving to the UK and I'm going to hibernate because the world is coming to the end because of AI. And like literally left. And this was like the head of safety and security at Anthropic. And you're like, okay, I'm in San Francisco, so I know how fast this stuff is moving. I know I like don't, drive my car anymore. I never actually have anyone behind a wheel driving these days. AI is responding to everything. It clears my inbox. It does all my drafts for me, and I just click send, 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 send.
Oh my gosh, we need a whole course on this,
But
Dana.
yeah, but I'm like, what is it that I don't know that's even faster? And so I think so much of it is about where you are. But like, I was just on a call with one of our property management partners in Jackson, Mississippi, and like, they don't have anything of like, what we're showing and saying. And it's the same thing with Hemlane. Like, now I can type in to the Hemlane system, name if just I could just type into Jarvis. Jarvis is our AI. On the back end, I could say, were any tenants unhappy about repair requests? And it will not only come back with, here's anyone who may have been upset about something, but here's why they were upset and here's what you could do better. And like all of that, and it just tells you everything right there. I asked it the other day, I said, for our owner operators, what percentage of them live out of state from their properties? And I just clicked send, and it said 53% of your customers have properties out of state. And it looked through 5,000 different databases we have. It looks through everything, our customer.io, which is our email marketing, kind of like a MailChimp. It looks through our HubSpot. It looks through everything. It takes all these tables and then comes up with something delightful. And it's accurate. And so I think that the cool thing about AI, I think, is that it's moving so fast. I also think that there is going to be a huge transformation that, like, if you have kids and you're thinking about what do my kids go into, like, nowadays I'm like, you would need to look at what they just said, AI is replacing what jobs. I'm like, maybe everyone should just become a plumber. We need plumbers and
Right.
handymen. And if you're
Oh, amen. Car mechanics.
if you're a good handyman, come to us. We would love to work with you. So yeah, I think that jobs will change as well pretty rapidly here, and we'll start seeing that. I don't think enough people are talking about company freezes on hiring.
Okay.
Lots of companies are freezing hiring because of AI.
That makes sense. I think about the whole generation, my own kids. My daughter graduated last year from college and marketing degree, and almost all the kids got, these degrees that were just exciting and
Yeah,
great and at the time, but literally when they started college in 2021, AI wasn't even on the scene to the naked eye.
yeah,
And by the time they graduated, it was like the job market and of course for all the coders and the IT folks,
yeah,
that it's mind-boggling. But I love
yeah,
how you're embracing it and how we can turn this around and turn it into a strength when it comes to getting efficient with things like property management. Pretty
yeah.
cool.
Yeah, and you can think about it like if you're an owner operator, how much faster you can be. If you're a property manager, like you're managing an AI agent is a lot easier than managing people, right? And people calling in sick and this and that. And so it's interesting because you almost want to use it to your advantage. And you can have, I had a property manager the other day say, do I have to let go of my team if I move to Hemlane? I said, no, keep your entire team and we're just going to double your door count. Like, and you can use the same team, but we can double your door count. And so I think if you're very optimistic about it, you can find ways to win in this age of AI.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Do you find that it's easier too for investors to think outside the box and think about if they have the security of a partner like Hemlane at their fingertips to invest out of state and out of their local backyard?
I definitely think so. The one caveat I would make is There are some investors that are pretty naive with investing. And like, I know you would never, ever do this. And this is why I can say this
Yeah.
talking to you. But I think there's some investors that go and they invest out of state and they buy a property for $20,000 and they think that they're going to cash flow on it and they're not going to put any investment in it. And, that's going to be able to be managed and it's in a terrible neighborhood. And in those types of cases, it's like Hemlane is going to make anything so much better and increase your bottom line, your cash flow overnight. But there's certain things where it's like, well, you need to completely renovate it or you need to lower your expectations on what the credit rating is. Like you can't get a 650 credit score in a class D neighborhood. And so
Right.
there's certain things like that where I think technology, people leveraging it is phenomenal. I also just think you should also use the technology to say, hey, could this be a good investment?
Oh,
And what's
100%.
there? So
Yes.
yeah, that's another one that I would bring up is technology can solve as much as it can solve, in other words.
Right. And I
Yeah.
think some of the challenge that I imagine that you can face at times because you get the property after it's been purchased and the acquisition. So I think the more that we can all talk about partnership together, and
Yeah.
if you're listening to this and you're thinking about building your team to create that success, it's not one piece. This is one leg of the stool that's so
Yeah.
important, but you get your boots on the ground and you get your realtors, you tap into your local networks. If you're in
Yes.
Idaho, of course, we want you to
Yeah.
tap into Idaho Reen and get those trusted sources and really learn, like, is this property in the path of progress? Is
Yeah.
this a class B property versus a class D property, or is this a class A property? And I'm all about, buying for the long term and buying value and those properties in which a tenant is going to be attracted to, and class A tenants attract other class A tenants,
Yeah.
and it just propagates your success. And you just don't want to put lipstick on a pig, so to speak. That's an investor term.
Yeah.
And throw a paint on a front door, but have a house that's falling down. You've got to have a quality product. And it sounds like partnering with a system and using AI technology is really a difference maker to potentially set you up for success.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think so many people, it's such a good point, isolate things where they're like, I'll use technology or I'll use AI. And it's like, no, you need the whole thing. You need a really good on the ground team. You need a really good technology and efficiency to automate 70% of it, but you still need the on the ground team because if it's automating things, but you bought a property that was never going to cash flow, an alligator, like there's only so much the tech can do. And then it's like
Right.
use AI, but use it very intelligently. And I think, and thoughtfully. And I think that's where like we love our realtor partners because we know they're not going to screw us over. Like they are going to make sure they want to keep their client. They're going to make sure that that property is going to cash flow and be a good investment for them. And so, yeah, I think sometimes people use technology and don't think about using technology holistically within the entire kind of life cycle of how you think about the experience and who you're working with.
Amen. Well, you kind of just answered my last question that I was thinking that I was going to ask you, and that you summed it up beautifully, because I was thinking about if someone's listening out there and you're just thinking about pulling the trigger on your first property, what would you recommend? And I love how you answered about like looking at all the pieces. But is there
Mhm.
anything else that you would add to someone out there that's a high income earner that is had never actually purchased that investment? What you
Yeah,
would tell them?
I would say do the work and have some sort of hypothesis, thesis, and then find the right people in the area. So, like, AI could very quickly tell you what are the fastest growing cities? Why are they fast growing? Are they diversified? Like, you don't want to go to a town where it's like just mining and like it's growing fast because of something in the mine, but in 5 years, the mine's going to deplete and there's not going to be anyone there, right? And so, like, you can do kind of these macro trends if you're looking. Then you have to know who are the partners on the ground to work with. Then you have to look at a micro level. So I think everything becomes almost a process in that sense. And if you can seamlessly use them together, the AI with a local realtor, however you're going about it, as long as you have people and technology, like real estate is still a people game. And I think the strongest performers understand that and really build the right team and the right technology.
Perfect. I could go on and on because I've been doing that myself, doing due diligence on different areas. It's absolutely fascinating. Thanks so much, Dana, for coming and dropping your knowledge and your experience on this. And if people wanted to get in touch with you to find out more about Hemlane and you personally, where should we send them?
Yeah, I love my email. Even though Claude goes through my email inbox every day, it does
Which
show
I got to
me
learn how to do. That's amazing.
who I should respond to. But it's Dana, Dana at Hemlane.com. Even if you're not looking to use Hemlane, if you have questions on property management, if you have questions on markets, all of that kind of stuff. I love talking to people about real estate. I think being in it every day is super exciting. So I would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on and thanks for partnering with Idaho Ream this year. We're excited for what's to come and just love your attitude and spirit of generosity and just giving your knowledge. I can tell you're the type of person that doesn't hide all the secrets. And there are no more secrets, by the way, it sounds like with AI. So that's a good thing.
Totally. Well, thanks so much, Jonna, for having me.
My pleasure. Have a great rest of your day. And everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. We appreciate it. If you got value out of today's episode, please go back and listen to some others. We really appreciate it. Go and grow and have an amazing day.